Some of you will know that I've written a book called Total Forgiveness. It turns out to be my bestseller. It was born in the darkest hour that I had ever known. And if you will bear with me to repeat the story, when Joseph's son looked at me and said, "R.T., you must totally forgive them. For until you totally forgive them, you will be in chains." Well, I couldn't have known then that one day I would write a book. The first book was called God Meant It for Good, where I go into the details of the life of Joseph. And I'm doing that to a degree in these talks that I'm doing, 10 minutes each. But what I want to do is also bring you to the place that you can see how Joseph forgave his brothers for what they had done to him. And so they betrayed him. They were going to kill him. They yanked that coat of many colors off his back, dipped it in blood, took it to their dad. Old Jacob took the bait and said, "A wild beast has devoured my son. I will go to my grave in mourning." Well, the brothers thought they got away with it, but the Bible says, "Be sure your sin will find you out." Well, we're going to look over the future with Joseph and what happened. And you may recall that because he did the right thing, resisting sexual temptation, when Potiphar's wife tried to get Joseph to sleep with her, he refused. And then she says to her husband, "This Hebrew tried to rape me." What a horrible thing. But now Joseph is in prison. Now, it turns out he's got two guests. That is to say, that the Pharaoh put his butler and baker in prison. And now Joseph's got company, two other prisoners there. And he gets to know them. And one day it turns out each of them are looking sad. And Joseph said, "What's going wrong? Why do you look so sad?" And they said, "Well, we've had dreams, so we don't understand them." Well, Joseph thought, "Oh boy, good. This is what I'm good at. This is what I can do. Tell me your dreams." Well, the butler, sometimes the translation is cupbearer to the king, told his dream. And Joseph said, "You will get your job back in 3 days." And then he said something to the cupbearer to the king. Maybe he shouldn't have said it. I take the view he made a big mistake when he said, "Remember me to the Pharaoh. When you get your job back, remember me." And I think in that moment that Joseph was just told by God, so to speak, "You're going to need another couple of years. You're not ready." You see, God wanted to do something in the life of Joseph whereby only God could get the credit. Joseph could have got some credit if he said to the butler, "Remember me. Tell the Pharaoh that I don't deserve to be here." And that would be Joseph plotting his future. God wanted to do something with Joseph that has no natural explanation. Well, in the meantime, the baker gives his dream, and it's not so good. And Joseph says to the baker, "I'm sorry, you're going to be hung in 3 days." And that's exactly what happened. Well, it turns out when the butler, the cupbearer to the king, gets his job back, he forgets all about Joseph. But what happened is that God had a different idea. I've often thought this, if you were a friend of Joseph and you heard that he was in prison and you were praying for him, or let's say Joseph had prayer warriors on his side, "Remember me," and you say, "God, we want to see Joseph delivered," would it have crossed your mind to pray for the Pharaoh? You see, what amazes me about this story is that the way God would use Joseph and the way Joseph would get out of prison, he actually deals with the Pharaoh. That's thinking big. Most of us would never think of anything like that. It turns out the Pharaoh had a dream, and he is very upset, and he wants it interpreted. So he brings in members of the staff. There are people paid to do this. This is their job. And none of them could interpret the dream. Well, in the meantime, the butler, cupbearer to the king, overhears all this, and then he says, "I remember my faults." And he goes to the Pharaoh and said, there is a Hebrew in prison who interprets dreams. He interpreted my dream, he interpreted the baker's dream, and it's come out perfectly. Well, here's what's interesting. The Pharaoh didn't ask, well, tell me more about Joseph. Get some information about him. Before we bring him in, we need to know more about him, get his background, see who recommends him. Has he got a good past? You know, here was Joseph now convicted of being a rapist. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. As far as we know, Joseph was never cleared of this crime or alleged crime. This would follow him. And I suppose there would be people who would always think that Joseph had tried to rape Potiphar's wife. In any case, the Pharaoh was so desperate, he would not ask questions like, well, what's his background? Let's check him out first. He would just say, well, let's meet him. So suddenly, Joseph is told to shave, get ready, you're going to meet the king. And overnight, now here is this prisoner facing the king of Egypt, who's desperate. I mean, he's desperate. And he gives Joseph the dream, and it turns out the dream is in two parts. And when Joseph hears about it, he knows exactly what to do and exactly what to say. And he says to the Pharaoh, the dream means that you're going to have 7 years of plenty. There's going to be rain, sun, crops will grow, and it's going to be great for 7 years. But the following 7 years, there's going to be famine, and it's going to cover everybody, the worst ever. And then Joseph does something that he felt led to do. He didn't have to do this, but he said to the Pharaoh, what you need to do is plan for the second 7 years, because you're going to have plenty. And if you don't plan for it, then when the second 7 years comes along, you will not have any food. So plan ahead and store. And the Pharaoh is so impressed. He said, well, we need to get somebody in charge to do this. And then the Pharaoh says, whoever but Joseph. And now, do you know what? The Pharaoh is so impressed with Joseph that right then he makes him number 2 in Egypt. He's a number 2 man. He's referred to as the governor. You could call him the prime minister. And now he's becoming head of state, so to speak. Overnight, isn't this something that in a short period of time, God could do this for Joseph? And I think of the verse in Kings where it talks about Hezekiah and how they had a Passover and how quickly it happened. And everybody marveled that it came about in such a short period of time. Well, it shows how God can quickly make something happen. So one day, here's Joseph in prison, no future, no hope, and the next day he's prime minister of Egypt. It shows how quickly God can make things happen. And the truth is, Joseph's time had come. And I can tell you, if you're waiting for something to happen, waiting for God to step in, and at the moment it looks like there's no way that you can have a future, maybe you have a past, and maybe because of your past you say, oh, God can never use me. I'm in trouble. I've got a past. When they hear about my record or the things that I've done, nobody will want me. But let me tell you something. God can arrange a situation in such a way that your gift will be needed, and all that is worrying you most and about your past, you think there's no hope, whatever, God can overrule everything. The Bible says all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Joseph loved God. God was with him. The day would come that we would see the hand of God in the whole thing. And if you love God and resist sin like Joseph did, you have a future. You have no idea what is ahead, and you have no idea how quickly God can make this happen.